Hello students, this is Professor C.A. Tanuja Bhati from Jain College of Engineering, Belagavi, Department of MBA. Continuing with revision lecture of Module 3, Time and Value of Supply for subject Indirect Taxation. As we know that under indirect taxation subject, 40% is problems, of which is covered under Module 2, which we have already covered under the video lecture named IT Problems Module 2. Under Module 3, Time and Value of Supply, we have sums on time of supply, that is time of supply of goods, and time of supply of services, which we have already covered under IT Problems Module 3.A and IT Problems Module 3.B respectively. Today, we will be seeing simple problems on place of supply, under which we will be seeing problems on place of supply of goods. And I have named this sub part of the module as IT Problems Module 3.C. Moving ahead. So today, this video lecture will be covering simple problems on place of supply for goods. As per your VTU syllabus, you just have simple problems on all the modules under which problems are covered. So we will be seeing place of supply for goods. Moving ahead. Now, place of supply in case of goods. We already know what is the difference between goods and services. Goods means every kind of movable property which excludes money and securities, and services is anything other than goods. So we have the place of supply different in terms of goods and different in terms of services. So this particular video lecture is only in respect of place of supply for goods. Now it's very important first to understand what is the meaning of place of supply. See, as we all know that GST is a consumption-based tax. Consumption-based tax means where the goods are consumed, GST is gone or collected by that particular government. So the place of supply provisions determine the place, the jurisdiction where the tax should reach. So place of supply will help us know which is the taxable jurisdiction where the GST tax should reach. The place of supply and the place of supplier. Once we know what is the place of supply and the place of location of the supplier, these two become two important determinants to ascertain what is the nature of supply. That is whether the supply is interstate or intrastate. In other words, let me put it that these two factors, that is place of supply and location of the supplier, are very important to know whether a supply is subject to whether SGST or CGST or UTGST or CGST, depending whether it is a state or union territory, or else it would attract IGST if it is an interstate supply, because we know that there are different GST taxes like CGST, SGST, IGST. So in order to levy those taxes, it is very important for us to know what is the place of supply. Because depending on the place of supply and the location of the supplier, we can judge or we can come to a conclusion which type of GST taxes have to be levied. So place of supply helps us to know that particular jurisdiction where the tax should reach. Now, place of supply for in respect of goods, we have two sections, section 10 of IGST Act and section 11 of IGST Act. Now section 10 of IGST Act is to be applied when both the supplier and recipient are located in India. When the person who is supplying the goods is located in India and the person who is receiving the goods or the purchaser also is located in India, then we got to apply section 10 of IGST Act. And section 11 of IGST Act is to be applied In case of imports or exports, means either of the supplier or either of the purchaser is outside India. So under section 10, where both the supplier and recipient are located in India, we have 5 cases. And where either the supplier or either the recipient is located outside India, we have 2 cases. So section 10, subsection 1, clause A, B, C, D, E. Totally we have 5 cases. In section 11, clause A and B, we have totally 2 cases. So this is only in respect of place of supply in case of goods. Next, so let us understand the first case. Place of supply for goods, section 10. Now section 10 is where both the supplier and the receiver are located in India. So first case we are going to see section 10 subsection 1 clause A, first case. So first case is where the supply involves the movement of goods. So where there is movement of goods, whether by the supplier or the recipient or any other person. See, where there is movement of goods means from the location of the supplier, if the goods are to be delivered to the place of the recipient, there has to be a movement of goods. The goods have to be moved from the place of supplier up to the place of the recipient. So in such a scenario, if such a case arises, what is going to be the place of supply? The place of supply will be the location of goods at the time at which the movement of goods terminates for delivery to the recipient. In simple words, the place of supply will be the location where the goods, delivery of the goods terminate, means where the delivery of the goods end. What is the location of that goods at the time of termination of delivery? That is going to be the place of supply. Let us understand with the help of this. See, Gujarat, suppose if a seller is belonging to the state of Gujarat and here the receiver is in the state of Uttar Pradesh, here there is a movement of goods from Gujarat to Uttar Pradesh through a transport. Now, what is going to be the place of supply? Location of the supplier is very simple, it is Gujarat. Now, what is going to be the place of supply? Then we have to see case 1. Here there is movement of goods. Now in case of movement of goods, it is where the movement of goods terminates for delivery. Now where will this transportation stop? It will stop up to the recipient's location, correct? So here when the goods reach the recipient's location, the delivery is of that particular goods is going to stop. So here the place of supply is Uttar Pradesh. So which tax you will levy? IGST. That is the main reason why it is necessary for us to know what is the place of supply in order to know what type of tax is to be levied. So the first case is where the supply involves movement of goods. Movement of goods means goods have to be moved from the place of Gujarat, from the supplier's place up to the recipient's place. And what is going to be the place of supply? That is the location of the goods at the time the goods terminate for delivery to the recipient. Now recipient is in Uttar Pradesh and the delivery is going to stop in Uttar Pradesh at the recipient's location. So place of supply is Uttar Pradesh. Now this particular case is to be applied only where there is movement of goods. Where there is no movement of goods, you cannot apply this case. So this case has to be applied only when there is movement of goods. Now let us see one problem on this particular case. Determine the place of supply. Mr. Roy of Nasik, Maharashtra sells 20 refrigerators to Mr. Raj of Indore, Madhya Pradesh for delivery at Mr. Raj's place of business in Indore. So what is happening? Mr. Roy is from Nasik. So Mr. Roy is the supplier. He is selling 20 refrigerators to Mr. Raj, who is the recipient, and Mr. Raj wants the delivery at his place, which is there in Indore. His business place is in Indore. So now first thing you all need to know is which case to apply. Case number 1, because here there is involving a movement of goods, because here clearly said for delivery. So there is a movement of goods. Now if there is a movement of goods, what is going to be the place of supply? Place of supply is going to be the place where the location goods are located at the time where the delivery terminates. Obviously delivery is going to terminate at the place of business of Mr. Raj, that is Indore. So place of supply is going to be Indore. Solution, the place of supply is Indore, and in detail you all can write the solution stating that as per section 10 subsection 1 clause A, where the goods involve movement, in that case the place of supply is going to be the location of the goods at the time where the delivery terminates at the recipient's location. So you can completely write this particular provision in order to elaborate the answer. Moving ahead, place of supply for goods. Now we are going to see section 10 subsection 1 clause B, that is the second case. Totally under section 10 we have 5 cases. We are seeing the second case. Now, where the goods are delivered to the recipient or any person on the direction of the third person by way of transfer of title or otherwise, it shall be deemed that the third person has received the goods. Now, what is this particular thing saying us? That when goods are supplied, when the supplier supplies goods but on a direction of a third person is telling that please supply the goods to XYZ. So on the third person's direction, when the goods are supplied to the recipient, in that case, what is going to be the place of supply? The principal place of business of such third person. So which is the principal place of business of the third person? That is going to be the place of supply. And remember, this provision you have to apply only when the goods are delivered on the direction of the third persons. Problem on case 2. What is case 2 or clause B? It speaks that where the goods are delivered on the instruction of a third person. Mr. X, a supplier registered in Uttar Pradesh having principal place of business at Noida. He asked Mr. Y of Ahmedabad, Gujarat to deliver 50 washing machines to his buyer Mr. Z at Jaipur, Rajasthan. So what is happening here? Here Mr. X is a third person who is directing Mr. Y to supply the goods to Mr. Z. Now place of supply is Noida. So in this case, the place of supply of goods is not the location of delivery of such goods, that is Jaipur, but the principal place of business of the third person, that is the principal place of Mr. X located at Noida. So in this case, what is happening? It is the principal place of the third person. So here the third person is directing. So it is going to be Noida. Because here Mr. X is directing, he is a third person, he is directing Mr. Y that deliver it to Mr. Z. Though the actual delivery has happened to Mr. Z, but on the instruction of Mr. X. So here the principal place of businesses of Mr. X is Noida. So place of supply will be Noida. Now, place of supply for goods, section 10 subsection 1 clause C, that is third case. Let us see the third case. Where there is no movement of goods either by the supplier or the recipient. So where there is no movement of goods at all either by the supplier or the recipient, at that particular situation, what is going to be the place of supply? Location of such goods at the time of delivery to the recipient. What is the location of the goods? You have to find out at the time of delivery to the recipient. That particular location will be the place of supply. Let me give you all an example. Suppose I want to set up a CA office. To set up a CA office, I need to purchase a building along with some furniture. So already a particular person has a setup office. I have to just purchase that. So I purchase the building along with the furniture. Now in case of building, as we know that GST is not applicable. But furniture, what is there in that particular building, I need to pay GST. Now place of supply will be the location of the goods at the time of delivery to the recipient. Suppose if the location is Belagavi. So where are the goods lying? Is there any movement happening? No. The building is set up, the furniture is already set up in the building. There is no movement. Either from the seller side or recipient side, there is no movement. Goods are already there in the building. So the location of such goods at the time of delivery to the recipient, it is Belgavi because the building is in Belgavi. Let us see. So suppose if there is a building with the furniture already attached to it. So it belongs to a particular seller and there is no movement of goods taking place. So what is the location of such goods at the time of delivery to the recipient? Suppose if this particular office is situated in Belgaum, then the place of supply will be Belgaum. So let us see one problem on this case. Mr. A, New Delhi, has leased his machine to Mr. B for production of goods on monthly rent of 40,000. After 14 months, Mr. B requested Mr. A to sell the machine to him for rupees 4 lakh, which is agreed to by Mr. A. What is happening in this situation is Mr. A had given some machine on lease to Mr. B. Now at the end of the lease, Mr. B is requesting Mr. A that I want the machine. I request that I want to purchase the machine and Mr. A has to sell the machine to Mr. B. Now in this case, is there a movement of goods happening? No. Already 14 months back Mr. B had got the machine. So there is no movement of goods happening from the supplier side. So which case will we apply? Section 10 subsection 1 clause C is going to be applicable. So as per that, what is going to be the place of supply? The location of the goods at the time of delivery. So where the goods are located? Noida, Uttar Pradesh. So obviously the place of supply is Noida because in this case there will be no movement of goods and the same will be sold as it is where as sold on as is where is basis, means where it is located, where the goods are located on that basis. Thus the location of the machine at the time of such sale will be the place of supply, that is Noida. Now moving ahead to the fourth case, where the goods are assembled or installed at site. So many a times what happens is, if you purchase some machinery or if you purchase some equipment, you will want the seller to install it in your factory premises or wherever you want it to be placed, because usually there is an installation required in many machineries or equipments which can be done only by the technicians of the sellers. So in such case, the place of supply will be the place where the goods are assembled or installed. So let us see, if we have taken a machinery and it has to be fitted in the premises of the supply of the recipient. So what is going to be the place of supply? The place where the goods are installed or assembled. If they're installed or assembled in, suppose if we say that the supplier is from Karnataka and it is installed and assembled in the state of Maharashtra, then Maharashtra becomes the place of supply. So let us see a problem on that. Mr. A of New Delhi purchases a machine from Mr. B of New Delhi for being installed in his factory at Noida, Uttar Pradesh. Now what is happening? Both purchaser and seller are from the same state. But what is happening? Mr. B, he wants that particular machine has to be installed in some other factory of his which is located at Noida. So what you have to do is, which case will be applicable? Installation and assembling. Case number 4, that is section 10 subsection 1 clause D. So obviously in as per this, what is going to be the place of supply? Place of supply is going to be the place, the location where the machine has been installed or assembled. So in this case, it is installed in Noida, Uttar Pradesh. So the solution is the place of supply is the site at which the machine is installed, that is Noida. Moving ahead to case 5th, place of supply for goods. Now, where the goods are supplied on board a conveyance like a vessel, aircraft, train or motor vehicle, what is going to be the place of supply? The place where such goods are taken on board the conveyance. Understand this nicely. Where the goods are supplied on board a conveyance like vessel, aircraft, train or motor vehicle. See, many a times what happens when you are traveling through a plane maybe, or when you're traveling through a train or through a ship, okay, many a times during your travel you are being supplied with certain snacks, food items, some goods, some products. So what is going to be the place of supply of such goods? The place of supply will be the place where such goods were taken or purchased on the board. Like when you're traveling through a ship, the place where the ship has purchased all these products, that particular taken on board, where such goods are taken on board the conveyance, so that will be the place of supply. So many a times on this, you can see on a flight that you are being served with snacks, food items. So what is going to be the place in case of sale of such food items? It's going to be the place where such items were first taken on board the conveyance. Let us see an example problem on this. Mr. W, an unregistered person, purchases coffee and snacks on board a Airjet Mumbai-New Delhi flight. The food items were loaded into the aircraft at Mumbai. So there is a Mumbai-New Delhi flight, and it was taken. That flight was taken by Mr. W. So he purchased some coffee and snacks on the board. So you have to see which case is applicable. Case number 5, that is section 10, subsection 1, clause E. So what does that section say is that when any food items or any product is given on board a conveyance, when you're boarding a conveyance, maybe it may be a vessel, aircraft, or it may be a train. So that time what is going to be the place of supply? Place of supply will be the place or location where such goods were taken on board. Now see, the food items were loaded into the aircraft at Mumbai. So they were loaded into the board. These products were loaded into the board at Mumbai. So place of supply is going to be Mumbai. Solution: the place of supply of goods by airjet to Mr. W is the location at which the goods are taken on board, that is Mumbai. So I hope you all have understood. We will just take a quick recap of place of supply for section 10 for goods. So we know that we have 5 cases under this, that is section 10 subsection 1 clause A, B, C, D and E. We'll just quickly see what is the nature of supply of goods supposed to be, and accordingly what is going to be the place of supply. When any problem is given in the examination, you have to first examine under which particular section is it falling, subsection. Based on that, you can determine the place of supply. So where there is a movement of goods, clause A says that where there is a movement of goods, then the place of supply will be the location of the goods, okay, at the time at which the movement of goods terminates, ends for delivery to the recipient. Clause number B says that where the goods are delivered to the recipient on the direction of the third person, then the principal business place of such third person. Clause C says that where there is no movement of goods either by the supplier or recipient, then location of such goods at the time of delivery to the recipient. Then where the goods are assembled or installed at site, the place where the goods are installed or assembled, and where the goods are supplied on board a conveyance like vessel, aircraft, train or motor vehicle. Place of supply is the place where such goods are taken on board the conveyance. Now let us go to section 11. Section 11 speaks about place of supply for goods only, but where either the supplier or the receiver is located outside India. So it has two clauses. Clause A, that is section 11 clause A, and section 11 clause B, where the nature of supply of goods is import. Import means bringing into India from a place outside India. So in that case, the place of supply will be the location of the importer, and in case it is an export, export means taking from India from a place outside India, taking goods from India from a place outside India. So place of supply in that case will be location outside India. Now let us see problems on these. So problem on section 11, problem number 1, Miss M imports electric kettles from China for her kitchen store in Noida, Uttar Pradesh. Mrs. M is registered in Uttar Pradesh. The place of supply is Noida. Here the answer is already specified. The place of supply is Noida. See, because it is very simple. Here import is taking place from China to Uttar Pradesh, Noida. Now what is happening here? In case of imports, the location of the importer is the place of supply. We have already seen here. In case of imports, the location of the importer will be the place of supply. So the importer is Mrs. M. So the solution, the place of supply is Noida. Next. Section 11, we see a second problem on it. Mrs. Lavanya, New Delhi, exports spices from New Delhi to London, UK. So here is the export. In case of export, again I am saying when either of the supplier recipient is located outside India, you have to use section 11. Section 11 clause A is for import and clause B is for export. So this is export. So we are going to use clause B, and as per clause B, what is going to be the place of supply in case of exports? It is going to be the location of the location outside India. So Mrs. Lavanya exports spices from New Delhi to London, UK. So place of supply will be London. So thank you students. We have completed the place of supply for goods. In our next video lecture, we will be seeing place of supply for services.